Stand for the pledge?
Yeah.
Oh wait, let's call the meeting to order at 5:17.
Angie's note taking.
Yes.
You good? Okay.
I'm Diane.
Stop me if you need repeat or anything.
Yes.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
Hey.
Oh, there he is.
Scott.
So do we have any changes or additions to the agenda? I know of one.
I have just that one.
Okay, so changes or additions to the agenda. Lauren Skilling and Amanda Hull wanted to come present Wednesday in the Woods information to us. And they can come at 6, so I put that as item D.
Great.
Okay. Has everybody had a chance to read the minutes from our last meeting?
Yes.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
I'll do that.
Okay.
Second?
Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Okay.
I said something towards the end of our open meeting about, that I didn't see there. I don't have it in front of me right now. But it was in regards to basically that situations of inequity or injustice aren't something that we normally can, that may not be addressable kind of one step at a time. I'm trying to boil down what I said. I don't know how to best address that. I didn't see it in the minutes, so how do you folks want me to do that?
Which thing on the agenda was it part of? I'm trying to
It was
remember.
it was one of the last things in the open meeting part before we went into executive session.
Okay. I'm sorry, I missed it. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember.
I mean, if it's not there, it's going to be kind of hard to, we're just going to have to take my word for it. Maybe I don't know how. You guys must have remembered me mentioning Paul Gorski.
Yeah.
Some of his
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I think
Like-
this is why we have Angie here this time.
Yes.
Because computer is not cooperating.
We were talking because some administrators are going to study or taking courses with him, right? Or he had given a speech that you were telling us about. Is that what it was?
That was, yeah, I mean,
Okay.
that was, not him. That was another fellow that came to the SU meeting. I mean, I don't need to get into it in length now. I know you didn't mean to leave it out. It was just, I
Yes.
think it was just an oversight, and
Yeah. I'm sorry.
people were down for.
Do you want?
for-
I mean, maybe you could paraphrase and we could add it in.
Yeah,
so
if
that
that's
it's in
okay with the
there.
board members, then that
Absolutely, yeah.
would.
Yeah. Angie, are you?
I mean,
Yeah.
it would be in the video.
Oh,
So actually I could,
pull it off.
so
Go
maybe.
back, yeah.
Word for word.
Yeah.
That's some wicked fast typing.
So should we table
That's-
the approval of last month's minutes and we'll review the tape?
Okay,
That probably
that's fine with
makes
me.
sense, yeah.
However,
Okay.
everyone's most comfortable with that.
So we're gonna table the approval of last month's minutes. Okay, we'll figure that out. Okay. So.
Thank you.
That was tabled. Public participation, we have some public. Are you guys discussing something that's on the agenda, or are you adding? Okay, moving on. So items for discussion, phone system.
I didn't see that. I can,
I don't know.
Does anybody know what the
What
phone
that
system's
is.
about?
No.
what the what's about?
Phone
Our
system?
phone system?
Where are we?
We're at the very beginning.
We're at item A.
Item A, here we are. Yes, I know what the phone system is about.
Good timing on
That's
your
why I'm here,
arrival.
huh? Not bad, huh?
What's the phone system about?
That was just pure luck.
That was.
Why you didn't know. Okay, so right now, throughout the supervisory union, we have what's called 3-digit dial. In other words, I can pick up the phone and I can dial 501 and Jean Marie will pick up at Weathersfield. The only school that does not have 3-digit dial, because you're on VTEL, is Heartland. So, there's some rationale for that, in case of an emergency, also the other way around. To get me, all Christine would have to do is hit 110, and I'm there, or 107, and Diane's there. But VTEL doesn't allow us to do that. What Larry has found out is that according to the, I don't know what the name of the commission is, but whoever regulates phone usage, we can, using our system, which is the system that allows for the 3-digit dial, we can bypass the VTEL, and we can have 3-digit dial. Here's the downside, 2 downsides to that. One is, I think you still have to pay for the VTEL line coming in, right? And 2, you would have to have a different exchange than a 4, what do you have now,
436.
436. So your number would probably be
674.
674 something, right? And then people would have to acclimate to, if you want to call the school, you just dial 674-2156, and you would get the. So I just felt that I did not want to, on anywhere near my authority, and we don't have to do this tomorrow. We don't, we can think about this, talk about this, and put it on the agenda for next time. I don't know how the community would react to the school having a 674 exchange. I know what it's like in Vermont. When anything changes, it's like, but I do think there are some real good reasons to do it, because we use that 3-digit dial all the time to reach the schools. I can get into a classroom. I can call, if I've got a question for Diana Stilson, who's teaching math in the middle school, and I don't know whether she got the new textbooks or whatever, I can just dial. Now we don't do that a lot, or we know the times, or we have the planning period, so we're not bothering during classroom time, but it's just nice to have that ability, and also for Christine to be able to call Tiffany with 3 digits, rather than, what's that Windsor phone number, and then star, because it's always acting like you're an outside,
I look it up every time.
you have to look it up every single time. You wouldn't in this case. So that's sort of the story.
Now, does that benefit us on the front of the school calling parents? Because there's been some oddities.
That's a good question. I don't, you mean
On
in
that
terms
front.
of, right, yeah, I wonder if that's why sometimes,
Because there's been times when the school was called and I didn't recognize the number and it didn't identify as Heartland Elementary.
okay,
You have
yeah.
more than one line.
You do have more than one line.
Yeah.
Plus, I think when you get those calls, are you talking about those emergency calls? Like to have no school on a snow day type of thing?
No, not those, no, just
Okay,
calls
you're-
during the daytime.
You're talking about calls during the daytime
Yeah.
or something else?
Like if
Yeah.
a teacher were to call or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
Or if I
Right.
were to call, it doesn't show up.
it doesn't show up as Heartland.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And it doesn't show up as a 436 number and it doesn't show up
Well, the good news is,
It's
then I
like-
guess it's not,
it's weird.
it's not gonna change that much then.
for cell
Cell
phones.
phones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, there's that,
There's
yeah.
that, yeah.
Well, it
but
might
that's-
be because you did get the new phone system, right?
Yeah.
So you're all set up for this, right? And we've been negotiating for the last 2 years with VTEL
Yeah.
to, all they've got to do is they've got to allow Sovereignnet, right, to be quote-unquote the phone provider or whatever, and sign off on it. But so far, we have not had much luck with.
They can't even allow that for just the building here?
Well, that's sort of been our argument with them, what?
Turn over the town, they're just.
Right, you're just turning over one building in the school department, but they have not been very cooperative.
So my
And
next question is, if Larry has figured out that this can work pretty seamlessly through existing equipment. Why can't it also be, could he please look into whether or not Heartland Community can call a 436 number, and unknowing to any of the community, it just flips to the 674
I
Yeah.
see, yeah.
and dials.
See, my guess is that's
And we have
part of the
auto
discussion
forward.
he's had, see, because that would require the cooperation of VTEL, and we've gotten almost zero cooperation from VTEL, but I will ask him that, all right?
It sounds like the biggest issue is the principal being able to quickly call the superintendent and perhaps a few other people, and the superintendent being able to quickly call the principals, which
Yeah.
you can mostly do. I wonder if it sounds like we have some things to look into, but do our physical phones allow for auto dial, for example, so that you could just put in his number and just hit one button that says superintendent?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
They're already, I mean, all of those are pretty much taken up with extensions in
Within the building.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I call Heidi and I just push a button or
Yeah.
whatever.
And I think the reason, part of the reason for that is because when we initially did this, the intent was, right, because they were all voice, VOI, right, or voice over internet, so they were all, because you had to juice it up, sovereign it, you had to have the right,
Yep.
pipe coming in and the right pipe going out. So over the last 3 years, we've sort of done all those upgrades, gotten everything, including the new phone system. And I think the intent was always that maybe we'd have some success with VTEL and be able to go that way. But my guess is the auto dialing, and if I had to guess why sometimes you get a weird exchange when somebody's calling out, because it probably jumps to one of those voice over internet lines.
Yeah.
It's almost like
Right.
the opposite of what you said,
Yeah, I
right?
think that's exactly
It rolls
Yeah,
internally,
it
and
is.
then you get a 674 exchange, because it's really the internet calling you, right? And
Right.
not,
Right.
that would be my guess.
Yeah.
But I just thought it would be worthy of conversation. I
Yeah.
think, Sarah, you're right, it's not, this technology just gets us more and more user-friendly not user-friendly, but, I don't know, lazy or whatever. I mean, I just know that I can memorize 3 digits. I can't always memorize.
I don't think it's laziness, and I think it's just the way that
Efficiency.
your side, the administrator's side of the picture
Can work.
is turning, and it's clean,
Yep.
and
And is there no cost to changing it?
No,
it's
no.
So there's no
simple,
cost, so we
and,
just, we have to continue to pay VTEL for
It would
the
be cost
primary
neutral
line.
other than and we'll continue to negotiate with them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you would just continue to pay for
And then there's
that.
no additional cost.
But there's no additional cost to do this.
And we'd have to tell the community that there's now a new
A
number.
new number to call
Right.
in, correct.
Um,
And that's why we might want to, if we decide to do this, pick a time to do that, so that we could do an alert, we could do a lot of ways, website, alert now. We could
Usually with a new number, you get a recording for a certain amount of time as well. that
Yeah,
says
that's a possibility. We could even do that, I
There's a
bet.
new,
or call forwarding.
Or
if
call
they're doing it.
forwarding initially.
Sovernet actually no longer exists. I think they've been taken over by
That-
First Light is the company.
Okay, that might be
And,
right, because,
Just FYI, I've heard about some problems with First Light, and so it might be worth looking into whether,
right.
whether everything has been working
Right.
smoothly
Is
there
it-
before we make this
Is this
switch.
company going belly up or what?
Or just how's the customer service? How,
Right.
VTEL, I think people know VTEL, it's a known entity. It's
Yeah.
very, First Light is based up in Burlington, I believe, and it might be, it'd be interesting to hear from Larry,
Yeah.
just how
Okay,
is-
that's a good question. Or for him to do a little
how-
research on
How
that.
smoothly
Yeah.
has that,
Right,
so,
It
right.
sounds like we have a bunch of questions for Larry,
yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
and
And
that, I do, from a community standpoint, I think it's a pretty big change. That needs a lot of
I think.
discussion
it's
and.
probably been, 436 has probably been
Yeah, to change the phone
150
number.
years.
I mean,
but-
everyone has that number memorized.
Right.
Yeah,
All
none
the
of-
parents
yeah.
have the number memorized, and
Right.
it would be difficult
That
to
would be
make that
tough.
announcement, I think.
Seems,
Yeah.
conduits of technology available today, why do we need to change a number?
Yeah,
Exactly.
I agree.
To a different place?
The concept makes sense, but
Right.
perhaps there's a way to do it that doesn't
Yeah, I think
cause
we should
upheaval.
We should be
Right.
enabling the school leaders to do everything they need to do, and heaven forbid if there's, in the heat of the moment, if there was a reason to be able to
Well, that's the other thing, you do think about the world we live in today, right? So that,
by memory,
Right.
I don't think VTEL wants that to be encumbered.
no, you're right. And you also don't want to make decisions based on fear, but I have thought about that, that every other building can get to me, or Diane, with three numbers. And in the heat of the moment, you know what I mean, that may all the numbers you're gonna be able to dial at that point, you know? And they might be 911 first, quite frankly, but at least the next one would be. So I've got a couple of questions then for Larry. One is the rollover question, so I'll ask him if the reverse is true. And then I'll ask about the customer service with Sabinet versus First Light and what's
Whatever
going
it's
on in that
called,
merger, if it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else that I could pass on to him that we could get answers to before we, because like I said, we don't have to make a decision, but I wanted to give you that heads up that we've looked into it. What is it, the FCC? I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever it was, we had to check with them first to make sure we weren't breaking any ethical code. But it's just like at home, you can use you don't have to have a landline, you can use a cell phone.
Right.
You could have voice over internet if you wanted to. Your company can't force you,
Right.
to use.
Would it change the lines to each room? The
No,
numbers?
no.
They would be the same?
They would be the same. And eventually, remember, the only thing that's holding us up from having the lines match these new numbers that were just put up, I don't know if anybody noticed when they come in, but every room is now renumbered. And that was also an emergency. And Nikki, you've been part of those meetings, right? They wanted all the fire departments to have the same kind of layout, so when they walk in a room, they know, I come in, I go right, I'm gonna start in the 100 series, then I'm gonna go to if I'm on the second floor, I'm in the 200 series. So Jim and his crew worked hard on that, and everything now in the district is quote-unquote numbered sequentially and consistently.
And now are you trying to get the phone numbers to
Now
match the
those
room
phone numbers, Larry, once we solve this mystery, will then turn all those numbers into those. So I guess to some degree it'll be 4-digit dial, because now these room numbers.
And it will match, hopefully,
And
eventually.
And it will match, exactly. The
Right now it
extension
does
will
not.
match the room number. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is also, when you think about it, from an emergency standpoint, when a call comes in the office now, that it's that room, again, there's a fire down here, or the sprinkler just went off, or, there's something worse than that in the building down this end. I think there's something about trying to cut down the number of digits we dial to get there. But I can ask Larry those questions. If you come up with any others, just email me,
Okay.
and I'll pass those on to Larry, and we'll just make sure we put this on the next agenda, okay?
David,
Thank
would
you.
you mind telling me the two questions again? I want to just make sure I captured
Yeah,
them.
good. So one question is there a way to get the 463 number to automatically roll over into the...
436, you mean?
The what did I say, 463? 436, sorry. You can see how I can't remember that's why I always have to say, Diane, how do I call Heartland?
I'll start there.
Help
Yeah.
me.
Use my cell phone, 'cause it's quicker.
Yeah, I know it exactly. I do have it in myself. And then, will the 436 number, is there a way to make the 436 number roll into this VOI, Voice over Internet 674 number? So that nothing on the outside would have to change? Because that would be the big cultural,
The 436
Shift.
is voice over IP too.
it probably is, isn't it? It probably is.
VTEL is all voice over IP
God
now.
almighty. That's why maybe it's
So-
doable. Who knows?
Yeah, so it should be.
Yeah.
But,
And I'm sure there's a whole history to VTEL too that I'm learning
Oh,
as
yeah.
we go through.
Yeah.
As we go through this, it's interesting. And then the other one is, Sarbanet has allegedly been bought out by another company. We think it's First Light. And what's the latest up-to-date kind of customer service issues? Has he had any trouble dealing with them?
Is it First Light?
Well, that's what
You know,
Sarah
I'm
thinks,
Googling
but-
it, because I
First-
could be,
I
that may
thought
be
you said First
the,
Flight.
that may be the car window replacement company.
I think you're right.
Is it, do you think that's it? Right, isn't that like?
Safe Light.
First
Safe
Light
Light.
repair.
That's
Safe
Safe
Light,
Light.
Safe Light, okay.
Safe Light is the car window company,
Let me,
right?
all right, let me just, I can check, and I will correct it if I have spoken
First Light,
erroneously.
First Light Fiber.
There
Thank
you go,
That's
First
it.
Light Fiber.
That's it.
okay.
Boy, these companies just, don't they? They just like, they
Yeah.
move back and forth like
They do.
crazy.
They
Yeah,
do, and it
hard
can be
to
hard to,
find.
and I think that's where customer service issues can really
right.
start, because
Okay.
it's a different company than,
I will
you
find
know.
that out.
Okay, so I think we're done with that.
That's done.
Okay. I'm realizing that you guys don't need to sit through everything. What topic are you here for?
There.
Acceptance.
Acceptance and
That's what I was
Understanding Committee?
wondering,
Skip ahead
so
to that.
I think we should skip ahead to that. So we'll skip community forum.
I
know, sorry.
You're just sitting there getting more and more worked up, Alicia.
You just stand like off the side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or if you need to be by the TV.
You have to dance, didn't you? Didn't they tell you?
There's dancing?
They're the entertainment committee.
The only other thing I'll do just while they're setting up and just in case I don't get back is my superintendent's report was very brief because most of it's going to be covered in the carousel
Okay.
meeting. It was mostly to bring folks up to date on the VSBA meeting that's coming up and some of those pieces, but I'll just do that later on, okay?
Okay.
So
Sounds good.
I'll go check on some of them. I'll be back.
Hi, so we're the Accepting and Understanding Committee. I'm Alicia, I'm a SEI here in the building. And this is Alyssa and this is Heather. Alyssa is a social emotional classroom teacher and Heather is a third grade classroom teacher. We sent out parents survey in the beginning of the school year asking parents how they felt about us taking some steps, making our school a safer and more respectful environment for people of minorities. Some of our data that we collected showed, so the first one there, 99.6% of the 238 parents that responded to the survey supported our efforts in creating a safe and respectful school for marginalized groups. In this next graph, 2 of the 238 parents said that they did not support our efforts in educating all the students about the experiences and issues faced by people of marginalized groups. They stated that this is because they are not sure and not clear about the role that the school would have educating on LGBTQ matters.
I'm sorry, could you say, how many people did that represent?
Two.
Which
Just
one? The
only
second
two,
question?
only
Two
two
parents.
people? Is that-
Only
okay.
2 people don't want us to.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
Was it 2 people or 2%?
2 people.
2
So
people.
everyone else supported the education of
Okay.
our
Yep.
kids?
Yeah.
Okay.
All 236
The-
other
yes.
And only
people.
one.
The first question is, just do you support the effort in general? And the second one is specifically educating about the experiences and issues faced by people with disabilities.
How many questionnaires went out, just so I have a context? Like
Every
Every
student got one,
over 300.
yeah, but we didn't
Take
take into
into
account
account
multiple
really-
children in one family,
Yeah,
so.
It's a
some
good
parents
response.
did
It's a
multiple
really good
surveys
response.
and
Yeah.
some did one
It's an
survey
amazing
for all of them.
response.
Super
Yeah.
good.
We sent
That's
it
like
with
an
our
almost
packet, our
100%,
take-home packet,
because
so families had to,
some
had to
families with
return
multiple
it.
Which we're gonna,
That's-
which we're gonna be
That's
mindful of for all our future surveys.
Yes, seriously.
Wow.
Some families could have did multiple surveys for each of their
Which
children.
we did see a
Yeah.
few of those.
And then some parents decided they were just gonna do one overall
For everybody,
for
okay.
each child.
Still good.
Still really
It is a
good.
great
Yeah, that's a
response.
really good response rate.
Yeah.
That's the way to send out.
And then.
Yeah.
We've
Right.
learned that.
Hold hostage.
Of the
You only
two
get one a
people
year,
who
though.
said no in this one of them specifically commented that they were uncomfortable with the role of the school in educating about LGBTQ.
Interesting.
So the next series of questions here all begin with, if you or your child identify as a person of color or as LGBTQ. And so there's obviously a large percentage that don't, and so really we're just looking at this little wedge here that do identify. The first one here is, do you feel safe and supported? Which we had, I think there was one person.
Yeah, I think one person said that they
Said
didn't.
no.
And they mentioned that in the comments later on as well.
Yeah. This one is, do you feel that your race and culture and identity is represented in the school? And so here we have a little bit larger section of people saying they don't feel that representation. And this one is respected. Do you feel respected? I think it was one response. So this one is, do you feel, if you have any issues, do you feel comfortable speaking with your child's teacher about them? Very happy to see that of the people who identify, they do feel comfortable. And this one is specifically, do you feel comfortable speaking to the school's administration regarding incidents? It was interesting, there was a smaller number of, actually a larger number of responses, but the percentages were different.
Some people filled out parts of the survey and not others.
I think,
Yeah.
I think when it got into the ifs, people stopped responding.
Yeah,
There was
all
a
this
couple
doesn't
that-
apply to me, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna.
Yeah. And if they felt comfortable speaking to the teacher, maybe they didn't need to go to the
Right,
administration, so they didn't answer that question.
right.
Yep.
And then this is, these are all the comments, we left space at the bottom for people to comment on any of the questions or say whatever they needed to say. Overall, they were really supportive in general. We pulled out a few specific ones here just to give you a spectrum of the comments.
One parent said, if my child does not want to be taught about LGBTQ, then they should not have to. We as a society make it way more of a big deal than it needs to be already. We are very supportive of these efforts and teachers and administration taking anti-racism training and being gender inclusive. I feel the school could do a better job at representing race, culture, or identity. I do not feel that my children get the same respect as the other students. I don't feel they are safe or that they are treated fairly. I'm appreciative that HES is taking this issue seriously, and I am thankful for the work we are doing.
Are these multiple?
Yes, yes,
Yes,
yes.
are
yes.
they're multiple.
That would be quite the.
They're not quite sure where they are. Right? We are a two-mom family. HES has been very welcoming. Every now and then there are forms that ask about mothers and fathers and could be more inclusive.
That sort of jumped out to me, just thinking about just little ways that you can change something to make it feel inclusive. And like we send home the emergency forms every year and it says mother and father, and it could just as easily say
Parent
parent
and
one,
parent.
parent two, you know.
Leading off that, this wasn't mentioned in the ones that we just read to you, but in the bigger comments, being able to leave a space for the child to identify their own identity too, instead of saying boy or girl. That was another one that was mentioned.
And educating teachers around being able to use pronouns that are, you know, more inclusive, like children and people versus boy and girl and then her.
Wrap it up. So we currently are looking into different trainings and speakers that we could have for the staff and educational tools that we can use, and we're looking at what that would cost us and would like to come back and discuss a budget for that.
Brittany reached out recently to a contact and got just a overwhelming wealth of information. So we're really excited to kind of go through that and see what we can pull out. I think it would be really nice to have some funding so that we can bring someone who really knows what they're doing to train staff and you know, bias training and diversity training. And then it would also be nice to have some money for just increasing representation in the school, whether that's cultural events or whatever that might look like. Those sort of feel like two different pieces here. And then also making sure that we have support systems in place for students of color here and students who identify as one of these groups, and both to support them and to make sure that they know if something happens. we have events.
And some parents were concerned about maybe we should just focus on bullying. We need to focus on teaching kids on how to not be bullies. And while that is important, I, as a school counselor and an SEL teacher, focus a lot of my lessons on non-bullying, but we believe that these kids who do identify in one of these minority groups need to feel represented. So it's so much more than just bullying, it's about representation. And we think that with these trainings, it's going to help us as a staff better educate each other as well as our students.
So the committee, may I add, because I'm very proud of them, they're meeting monthly. There are some parent representatives on the committee as well, and they are planning to do some trainings with the staff during staff meetings over the course of the year as a place to start, but looking for resources and funding would increase our ability to do that, because we don't feel as educated as we need to be to teach others about the topic. So
It's more about creating
Sensitive,
awareness at this
yeah.
point, just with staff. Yeah.
Have we, and this may be part of what you were passing on, but have we been able to identify schools that are doing a really fantastic job of this?
I emailed Jay Nichols, and he put the kind of some of the questions out to all of the principals in Vermont to get some feedback on what people are doing, and we got quite a few.
shared folders.
Tons of. So there are quite a few people who have said, call us. Here's who you can call at our school that has more information. Come shadow when we're doing some of these events. So there's a lot out there, but. It was, I just did that last week, and the information that we got was just huge, which is fabulous, but now it's organizing and trying to go through it and divide and conquer on who's doing what so that we can be sure we use our time wisely and kind of get the most bang for our buck, so.
Yep,
Yeah.
great.
Yep.
Thank you
Appreciate
to
it.
all of you.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Nice job.
Jen.
Yeah, thank you guys for doing that.
Excellent. And I just want to say how pleased I am with the results. I think I'm sure you've shared them with the teachers, and I just, I'm really proud of our school. I think there's so much more we could be doing, but we are doing a pretty good job, it sounds like. And the one thing that jumped out at me was the sort of 80% of kids and families who don't fall into those categories, and in some ways maybe that's where we need to be really focusing is the kind of training that the kids who aren't who may not have had those experiences themselves or had direct experiences need to have to be members of our diverse world.
Right.
So thank you for all that
Thank
work.
you. Thank you for staying and coming back. Oh. You're welcome to stay, but you're also welcome to go. It's totally up to you.
My kid's home.
Okay, so let's move back to topic B.
Oh,
Lauren
wait,
and-
no, whoop, we're gonna move to topic D.
Awesome.
Topic D.
Hi, good
Oh, yes, great.
You're up.
Your turn.
Okay, so you're up.
Like,
We
just
don't want
hop
you to
right
have to
in
sit
there.
around with us, so.
So touch screen is on.
Right.
And so you'll need to touch it.
Yes.
That was
So, I'm Amanda Hall, and I'm one of the kindergarten teachers here at Hartland. And we realized that we presented to the school board 4 years ago when we first started our Wednesday in the Woods program, and there's lots of new members, so we just sort of wanted to fill you in on what we've been up to the past 4 years with our Wednesday in the Woods. So, as I just said, this is our 4th year. During the 2015-16 year, we reached out to, we launched our program, we talked with the teachers from Ottaquiche, and they really gave us a big boost in how to move forward with our program. One of our inspirations was the documentary School Without, and we had a really awesome support from Jeff Marino, our principal at the time, from our PTSF, from our parents. It was just like, all right, let's do this. Everybody was so excited. So we jumped in and we did it.
We did well.
And we did well. Yeah.
And it worked well.
So for those of you who are new not familiar with our program, we thought we'd just kind of tell you a typical day out in the woods with the kids. We start in the classroom by gearing up to go out, depending on the season. It can be a quick process, or it can be just a bit of time to get fully geared up and head out to the woods. Once we're out there, we stop at what we call tree stop, which is kind of the upper part of the woods when you first walk in. And when we're there, we set the stage for the day. Tell the kids our plan, go over any safety necessities for that day. We have a wood song that we sing every week to kind of get our minds into the mindset that we're going to start our day. We have sit spots, which is just a really quiet time where each kid has their own special space in the woods, where they use their senses to observe the changes that are happening out there. We of course have free play, and then offerings are where we put in our curriculum activities. And then we have lunch, more free play, and then when we come inside, we reflect on our day out there by journaling, and then by also logging. We take photos throughout our day in the woods. When we come in, we load them onto the blog, and then the kids narrate. We tell them that they're telling the great wide world what they've been up to out there. And so we read the blog, and kids speak. It's very cute.
Oftentimes people ask us, well, how do you do the curriculum outside? And for us, the curricular connections are endless. We have read-alouds every week. We work on our sight words. We do shape hunts. We do counting and measuring. We do journaling in the woods, and then we journal when we come back inside. We make storyboards when we're doing our stories. The kids will take it outside and they'll create that story out of nature on a storyboard. We recently presented to the staff trying to get more people to come out into the woods and just let them know that if you're a little nervous about taking the curriculum outside, there's a million different ways that you can do it. And it's actually really fun, because then when the kids come back inside, they say, oh, you mean that triangle, like that tree we found outside? Like, they find all these different connections to the outside back when they're in the classroom.
And then the learning beyond the curriculum is even more endless, I think, than the ability to learn the curriculum out there. Students are developing incredible communication skills. They're working on teamwork. They are using their bodies in ways that they cannot in the classroom. They're cooking. They're playing. They're using their imagination. They're working fine motor skills as well as gross motor. It's just really, really amazing. And to us, this is kind of the heart of it. It's the learning experience that we can give them that is completely different than what they have in the classroom.
So, since it's been 4 years since we've presented, what have we been doing? Lauren and I, this is a real passion for us, as you can probably tell. And over the past 4 years, we have been making sure that we're doing lots of professional development in helping us in this area. So, we went to a PLC by Antioch College by Eliza and Meg, who are the teachers from Otakuchi that we got this idea from. They started teaching at Antioch College, so we took their PLC. We had a PLC in our district started last year that we're going to continue this year, because now other schools all of the schools in the district are doing a Woods Day, not necessarily Wednesday, but a Woods Day. We're going to our second Wellborn Hub conference in just a month or two. And this summer we went to the Wellborn Institute. We'll tell you more about that in a little bit. We had the Best Day Ever filmed. Many of you have seen it already. We didn't bring our case study in. We were going to show you. Oh, you did. We had a Forest Days case study done with us. And actually the book that she's passing around, there was also a Forest Days handbook written by Meg and Eliza that we're in as well. Lauren's lessons plans for the woods were featured in David Sobel's book. And we just recently this summer presented at the Upper Valley Innovators in Education Forum. So you've been gung-ho with our plans.
And so, as Amanda mentioned, we've been trying to build our knowledge and reading lots of books and processes and workshops, and this quote kind of struck a chord with us. It's, "The future will belong to the nature smart, those individuals, families, businesses, and political leaders who develop a deeper understanding of the transformative power of the natural world and who balance the virtual with the real. The more high-tech we become, the more nature we need." So we think we need to get more Hartland students out of the school.
So a little bit more about the Wellborn Institute. This was probably one of our favorite professional developments ever that we've ever done. It was extremely engaging, and we were able to take a lot from this. It was 1 week in July, and then we have to do 4 additional personal development days throughout the year with them. We got hands-on training in place-based education. We were able to develop goals that we want for our own personal place-based education, and we actually kind of tailored it for our school as well. And some of our goals were to involve more of our community members to make, get more people with more knowledge than we do to come into our outdoor classroom. And the other big goal we had was to encourage more Hartland teachers to give place-based education a try.
And while we were at the Wellborn Institute, we were charged with setting a value statement for our program and for the school. So these are, in draft form, but this is kind of what we envisioned. So we're sharing it as well, and any input would be wonderful. We did share these at the staff meeting that we did that as well, so we put it out to others to for their input. Because we're hoping, right now this is kind of our goal and our vision, but we're really hoping that it will spread and that other people will fully embrace it too. So, very involved in the school.
Another aspect of the Wellborn Institute that I forgot to mention was that we also received some grant money. We each received $1,000 to use towards our action research plan. So it's been really nice for us to sort of focus again back into our WOODS program and figure out how we want to continue to develop it. That's part of what this is for. So we have future goals for our program, as you can imagine. We want to make an ADA trail, and thanks to help from some wonderful people, we've gotten some grant funding to get the ball rolling on this. It's certainly not an easy task, and this is something that even in our first year we talked about with Jeff, it's been something that has been in the works for a long time, but we're really getting it moving and on our way to making it accessible to everybody, because that's really important. We, in the past 4 years, luckily haven't run into any accessibility issues, but we want to be sure that we're ready when the time comes. We really want to make sure that we're using our local resources and getting community members involved in this. Every Wednesday is open to other teachers in the school, other parents. We always tell anybody you're welcome to join us in the woods. So community members, anybody can come out there and do this in the woods. We want to try and improve our space. We have some lofty ideas for that and some smaller ideas for that, but we definitely have some ideas for improving our space. And one of our big pushes this year is, again, to get more of our colleagues to come out. We have 17 acres that can be used in so many different ways, so we want to make sure that we're using it all. And then we just want to make sure the sustainability of this program continues, and especially on the greater aspect of it for the rest of the school.
How many other teachers are using it now? There were others a few years ago, and now I don't hear.
Regularly it's just us.
Okay.
There are teachers that do go out for certain, a celebration or some things like that. The space is used, but on a regular basis, it's currently just us.
Questions?
Any other questions?
Have you seen you think that the students would have a lot to do, and the parents would have a lot to do with encouraging use? And so now there's 4 years of kindergartners moving through, another in 3rd grade or 4th grade. Is there any more interest in it in those grades as opposed to 5, 6, 7, 8?
I mean, the kids say a lot to us, like when we're walking down the hallway on a Wednesday all geared up, they often are saying, well, why don't we go? Why can't we go? It's hard to explain to them why. But our hope is that,
With the support of us and administration and the kids, we're like, ask your teachers. We're like, you guys are the ones that can help push this too. Like, ask your teachers. Tell them that you miss going outside. Tell them that you want that in your year. And so we definitely have heard it from a lot of the kids that have been going through.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Have you heard from any of the teachers, like any of you guys, on why interest has dwindled? Like,
For
what are
them?
the challenges? Yeah, what are the challenges for the teachers that are keeping them?
I mean, I put out a survey last year to see who was using it, and there were a few other teachers that had been. That dwindled last year, I think, and I didn't ask them directly why, but I would guess for a couple of reasons. One is fear of the lack of structure, which sometimes creates behavioral issues. So that's a real thing, especially when you're in the woods, and depending on how many resources we have, you may be down there by yourself, right? So I think that's part of it. I think teachers are feeling a lot of pressure to address the curriculum and maybe not making that leap to think about how you can address the curriculum in a different way outside. It's more planning and more preparation and more work. And not that they're opposed to it. I think that's just one of the factors. Yeah.
It's just more.
It's just more, right.
Something else.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
something else added to your
Right.
Well,
But
if you're not used to it, it's even
if you're not used to it,
more
right.
that
But
you
they-
guys can do curriculum from it.
Yeah, but we've asked, I mean, Brittany and I have set an expectation that the teachers are going to do 2 walkabouts or peer observations this year, and we've shared that this could be one of them. Go down and we will get you a substitute if that's what you need. We'll figure it out. So hopefully that will spur some interest and ease some of the questions that they might have about how to manage it.
And we certainly, after staff meeting presentation, had teachers coming to us saying, how can we get out there? I have this idea, or can you help us with this, curriculum plan that we need to get out there? A lot of them want to come just join our kindergarten for a little bit and just see what it's like, get a little dose in it. So they've started to reach out, which is awesome.
Yeah. It's so much fun. I would encourage anybody to go.
It's amazing. And the
They-
kids really do. I mean, I still, 3 years later, I have my inaugural Wednesday in the Woods kid still says, I wish we could go. Why don't we get to go? And so it's really stayed with those kids.
There's so much problem solving that occurs down there.
Amazing. Yeah.
Just naturally. That
And we were at one of the Wellborn Hub conferences, and the presenter, he had a slideshow, and every 7 or 8 slides or something, he put a picture of nature up, because just looking at nature automatically just brings you down a level, and it just calms you a second. And so to just go outside for a little bit, I mean, imagine a picture of it, it changes your demeanor. Let alone
the real
actually
thing.
going to the real thing.
Gotta love technology.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let us know what we can do.
Yeah. And
Have to
I
get bussed anywhere. It's right
can't
there.
believe how far you guys have gone.
Yeah.
Like, it's just really
Congratulations.
cool. This is, 4 years ago, I wasn't even on the board, but it was this idea that I was like, oh, they're going to try it. Let's see what happens. And then getting out there in the second year and actually seeing it in action, and then to where you guys are now, leaders, I think, in the region. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Incredible.
What's the work to make the space more accessible? How far out are you from?
We so Jennifer
'Cause there's
Waite.
that slope.
Yeah, she's on the Conservation Commission, and she works for Trails and Alliance, right?
Yeah.
So we wrote a grant to get her services, and she's reached out to Timber and Stone. They're coming when the leaves fall, because it's easier to do the work that they need to do that time of year, which will start, I think she said next month. I'm going to the next Conservation Commission meeting next Wednesday evening, because part of the Wellborn grant that we received, some money was set aside for signage down there, and the Conservation Committee wants to be a part of that, how we identify parts of the woods down there. So we'll make a plan next week, or an initial.
The bigger picture is that the land is owned by the town.
Right.
Not the school.
Oh, okay.
And so the Conservation Commission is charged with taking care of it.
Yep.
So that's why they're directly involved. It should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we want them to be.
And they're
so.
great, and they're very helpful.
Yeah.
They're, really helpful.
Yeah, they've
Yep.
done a lot down there to make this doable, which is amazing.
And also people really try and connect to get into our classroom with us. Like,
Yeah.
we've made some connections with, like, locals, and those are some of our people that we know they love it as much as we do. So.
I will say, there's no money in the budget right now for this program, and it would be wonderful to have a little bit for Lauren and Amanda. I know they have a vision for a more, useful structure down there. They have a kind of a lean-to, right? And
Tarp and sticks.
so they're making do, but it would be nice to have something a little more permanent down there that functions a little better when the weather gets really cold and offers a little bit of protection for the kids while they're out there all day.
And
So
we cook with them every week, and like we buy all that food, all of those things. Anything extra.
they buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like all those extras.
We also very each other's families too.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've been doing
That's very
cooking class.
But it would be nice to be able to support it.
Is there a figure in mind, or is that something that could be sort of worked on, or just a ballpark?
I was going to say we could work on it.
Yeah.
There is not a figure in mind, but we can certainly.
This is a great.
It's the time of year,
Yeah,
which is
it's
why I'm
time.
mentioning it, right? It'd be good to
And
have
one of the things, I mean,
an
like,
idea.
what you raised is the whole school, whole
Mhm.
child, or whole community, whole child. This, to me, kind of embodies that, like watching those kids out there, that is the whole child. And so going into budgeting season, like that's like constantly in my head, is like, this is our school philosophy, what things are we doing that supports that philosophy, and so this is one of
So we'll work on that for us, all right?
I wonder if we could put something on the listserv, or just invite community members in a more public way to go down and see what you're doing, or if there could be like a Saturday open house down there where some kids could be there and you could be, I'm just thinking about ways to sort of show the community how valuable this is as we head towards budget season, and so they sort of know what we're asking for.
And we did that family work day our first year.
That's right.
And I mean that really built our space that day. We did so much that day, and we've talked about, we have so many amazing people in our community with so many different connections. Like, we could do a community work day, like getting some hands on deck to build us this shelter that we want to build, or just different ways to involve the community too.
You have 4 years of parents who have experienced it as
Right.
well.
Right.
So you have a bigger pool than you did that
Right.
first year.
Right.
Yeah.
Just great idea.
All right, well done.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you for having.
Good timing, too. Perfect. Oh, yeah, you're both.
yes.
Yeah.
There's both are right
So, hold on, I'm catching up on that. So, now we're back to item B, which is the community forum, vision for the drama musical program. Okay.
Yes. So, kind of piggybacking on the whole child, whole community, whole school philosophy. I think the program that we have around music and drama is pretty awesome, and it feels like it's time to find out how we want to grow that program, if we want to grow that program and how we want to do that. And I think the best way to do it is to invite the community in to some sort of forum, and I've been bouncing around in my head, is it a forum dedicated solely to drama music? Is it a forum where we bring up other things that we want for our school or need for our school, like this program? I mean, many of you were there at the Heartland Community Connections Breakfast. There are other issues that we're dealing with in the community and trying to problem solve and support our kids. Is it one big forum, kind of the vision for Heartland Elementary School wrapped up in one, or, and I don't know, I'm looking for your ideas and opinions on that, which direction we go. But it feels like there's an element in the town or community members that are asking questions about how do we provide enriching experiences for our kids. And is that not just during the school day? How does that look after school? Are there any clubs? How do we increase the number of clubs that we have, because we really don't have any, and provide those opportunities for our kids?
Yep.
Which there's a price for.
Right.
So.
Right. The and I know I saw in the principal's report that there will be that we'll be looking at a request for fundraising for the drama program right now. So that's actually a good sort of lead in, that the drama program has traditionally done a lot of fundraising in order to let all kids, regardless of family income, participate in the Broadway trip and some of the other activities. And so, I mean, I think that's a starting place, perhaps, for the discussion of sort of how, what's our vision, what's the community's vision for that program, and what can we do to support it.
Right.
But I feel the exact same way about this program.
Right.
And generally, in the last few years, we've had a lack of community
involvement,
engagement.
That's right.
Involvement.
Yeah.
And I think that breakfast was eye-opening to
It was.
a bunch of community members. And if we could tap into their interest and energy, maybe we could get, and maybe it just means holding a meeting not at the school.
Right. It could.
If we bring it out of the school and into the town, then the school is coming out.
Yeah, although I think there's
value
that,
in people seeing
but then
the
I think
school.
there's also having our community of students and parents tell us what's important to them and what their vision is for these things, and putting it in the school budget.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think that's, so there's like the community and volunteers, and then there's supporting the programs that are important to us and taking them where we want them to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that may be two different things. I also, whenever you start talking about these things, you start sort of seeing how everything is interconnected too, right? And as we talk about the acceptance committee, I just kept thinking, at the same time that we're talking about cultural activities and diversity, we have this amazing Spanish immersion program.
Right.
And there are huge opportunities there to do cross curricular stuff, and so that's why I like the idea of engaging with more than one issue at a time. I think because then you sort of come up with those ideas.
So, does that look like a board subcommittee where we get together and plan how that looks, how we facilitate that?
Would
Because
that be a budget committee?
maybe, I don't know. It could be, or
maybe it would present to the budget
it could
committee.
present to the budget committee. Yeah.
So it's sort of, is it curricular?
Well, you said it best there, like looking at all of these things in the context of the whole. So that's what makes me a little bit uncomfortable I really enjoy presentations, but I get a little bit standoffish, admittedly, when there's a request at the end, because the board has to take so much more into account. I would much rather, me individually, I'd much rather hear of the requests, maybe within the context of the principal's report, or something that's more holistic. So I don't disagree with the importance of what we heard tonight, and if it was another night, or if we scratched our heads, we would come up with more ideas. And for instance, what we heard about at the breakfast a few weeks ago, I mean, it's very, I just want to, personally, I'm just try to stay metered and soak it all in. That's what I want, I guess, to hear. I mean, last year we had the Spanish initiative, the Spanish immersion language initiative, and so it doesn't seem far-fetched that there would be something this year that might be a special initiative, or maybe more than one. But don't we have to listen, don't we have to hear this all in the context of the whole? It just seems like we're getting ahead of ourselves if we're talking about the importance of a particular program tonight without knowing what the budget challenges might be.
I guess I'm taking a step before we even get to budgeting. What the broad picture, before we even start looking at numbers, what do we want our school to look like? And I think that that's where we are right now. We're way ahead of budgeting, and what do we want our school to look like? And, you know, this program may eventually request this amount of money, this program may get, but at least when we go to look at those numbers, we're looking at the broader picture of what do we want our school to look like?
Yeah.
Okay, like, how do we get these programs to all work simultaneously within a budget to get to that level? And I think
So Lauren and Amanda had a great idea of getting more of the community to see what they're doing. And for instance, like, and they're already working with the Conservation Commission, so that, I didn't raise my voice there, but for instance, maybe the Conservation Commission has a meeting down there or something like that. Or, yeah, I hear what you're saying there. This is early, but it's just next month, maybe it won't be early. I mean, we're only meeting once a month now instead of, well, it's always been once a month. So.
In my mind, all of the little parts that you're referring to, I think, Scott, go together in this larger picture of educating the whole child and what do we want to offer our kids. And I'm thinking budgetary as well. Like, what is that going to cost? Where does that go? Is it a line in the budget that's just enrichment, right? Or I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's kind of getting a feel for where you're at. It would be helpful to know where the community's at.
Well, that's great that you just put it that way, Christine, because it's also very important that board members don't somehow articulate that maybe this is the mission, this is the singular focus for the year. It's the educator's job. And so if it was in the enrichment line that you just mentioned.
But there isn't one right now.
there
is no enrichment line.
And I think we also need community input. Like,
we do. I would agree.
We need our community to get involved, and I feel like we can build off of the energy that we had at the breakfast. And we need, I mean, because we're all representatives of the community, and we all know the school. And when we bring the budget to the voters, we need to say, you know, our mission is to look at the whole child, and these are the things, this is how we're supporting the whole child in our budget, and we need them to be involved in that before we get to the point
Before
where,
we get to the budget.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I think we need some type of community engagement very soon.
That's one of the reasons that I spoke up at the end of the breakfast there and reminded everybody of
we'll be here.
I know.
October 1st.
Yeah.
I know.
There they are.
Well, I have a meeting with, we have a follow-up, a debrief about the breakfast, October 18th with MAP, which is Mount-Escotney Prevention Partner Practice,
And they
John and Dave. Yeah, because we didn't, that wasn't that was just the initial kind of
Presentation.
presentation. We
Yeah.
know we need a next step, and I don't know if that fits into what we're talking about, or if it's a separate thing. I mean, it feels a little bit
It feels separate.
disconnected.
It feels separate. I mean, and the other thing that I just want to be really careful about is when we're talking about like a line item for enrichment, I see all of these programs as being essential to our academic program here at Heartland. All of
I
these
would
things.
agree
I
with
see
you.
drama and
Yep.
music. I see Wednesday in the Woods. And I think it's really important to me too that we're like playing from our strengths. You know, that we have teachers who
I know.
teachers who
It's incredible.
are spending their summer, and they clearly it's a passion for them. And I think that those kinds of things that arise sort of organically from educators' passion are often what makes a school really great. And so, how do we support those? How do we encourage them? And how do they all fit into, as Nikki says, our sort of our vision,
Yep.
our idea of what the school offers?
So do you think a subcommittee to meet to kind of plan a forum is the right
I
direction
think,
to go?
It's complex enough
Yeah.
that I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to send out an email to whoever would like to be on that subcommittee, or I can email the whole board and say who wants to meet and when.
I'd be happy. I'd love to do it actually. I
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I don't know if I can come.
Okay.
Personally, more than, like, I really want to be engaged in this, but
We're
I
going to
am
call it
ready to
a
over
forum
committee
planning
right now.
meeting or sub-planning committee, right? Or community engagement committee.
If you two want to run with that, I'm gonna relax.
Okay.
So that immediately takes it into like that field of equity exploration, where who's gonna come to the committee meetings? Who is being reached by the communication? Is this being led by a fair slice of the community? Are there representations of representatives of the community in the full leadership of such an initiative? Of questions like so. I know you have to get going. Is there any way to, so one of the things that stuck out at the breakfast that we've mentioned a few times is the I don't know if it's fair to say increasing, but it is fair to say that I think this year the enrollment in free and reduced lunches in our district is going to be higher than it has been in any of our memories. I don't know if that's
That was last year's number.
Yeah.
We're waiting for this year's
so
number
there's
to come
gonna be
in,
a
but
new
I don't.
number this year.
I think
Yeah.
it will. I don't think it's changed dramatically. But.
Okay.
But are you suggesting that inviting the greater community to come be part of the planning meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I am suggesting.
Sure.
And it's just like
I
and
think
so
that's
immediately I'm just like, okay,
great.
is an email home like being critical here, Christine, sorry, but
That's
that
okay.
was last year's method. Is that working today?
Well, we can.
Who comes to these meetings? Who has time at this time of day? Like, are there parents who work afternoon, evening shifts and can only come to a committee meeting at 11 o'clock in the morning,
It's possible.
but not
Sure.
after work?
Yep.
What other community members think is after work? I mean, it's just because there's just a huge.
Well, we could certainly explore using technology for those
Yeah.
people that can't make it. We can do GoToMeeting, right? Or there are lots of ways to include people
Or surveys.
these days.
or-
Yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like
So-
that survey method that we saw first was.
Well, that was the old style. That was
That
paper
was the
pencil.
yeah.
We did paper and we sent it home with the packets, so they
packet.
had to bring it back in order to get their name checked off.
So
And then we
took note of
manually
that.
inputted all that data.
It's not an efficient use of
It was not.
resources because it had to be manually.
Yeah.
I
The
had a question
input,
about
all
the
of that, but-
drama club
Sure.
history. I know that there was some disappointment that it didn't happen this year. had it been around long? I haven't been around long. So I don't know if it was
it
kind
has
of gone or.
Yep, it was originally, and Angie probably knows better than I. It was
Yes,
originally a
it
funded
has.
position when
So it had been around a while.
it had been around. It was funded in the after-school program when there was an after-school program at Heartland. Am I getting that right? And the people that
But that
ran the
wa-
clubs got
wasn't
paid.
long.
I'm sorry?
That wasn't around that long.
That was around a year.
Prior to
right?
that, the drama, there used to be 3-4 plays and then a middle school play. I'd say probably more than 10 years. Probably,
Yeah.
I mean, Jamie started doing drama musicals very shortly after she started here.
Okay.
So,
So has the funding been kind of?
they were always self-sustaining.
Yeah.
And then I think it's more in recent years that they started getting as they started building the program and started offering stipends. I think there was always like a stipend for a pianist and
There's money in the budget under
but-
stipends for the production. There's not money in the stipend budget to pay a person to do the drama club, which is the once a week fall club that kind of teaches kids some skills and they raise money because they put on the variety show.
Right.
So there is not money in the stipend line for that at this point. But is that where it belongs, I guess, is my question. Maybe money for those kinds of opportunities for kids don't belong in the stipend line in the budget.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Or we change the way stipends are.
It does, but this is part of what
Approved.
what this agenda item is about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's sort of saying
Not to talk around it.
giving,
No, no,
right,
a little,
absolutely,
yeah.
and giving the community a chance, just to sort of say to the community, what's your vision for this program and how do we get there?
Right.
How what do we need in
And to
terms
go
of
beyond.
staffing and funding
And
to
there's
get
some other things.
to fulfill this vision that our community has, and if there are concerns about that not enough kids are involved, how do we get more kids involved? If there are concerns about too many kids being involved, how do we, I don't, I'm just taking those off the top of my head, but I think
And then-
that's the idea.
And then our planning committee is to how to bring in
How to develop
the community.
I think to come up with the questions we want to ask, to come up with the topics we want to meet
How to
about,
approach
who's
the
going to
community.
facilitate the groups, is it a rotation, is it a whole group
What
forum?
kinds of things do we
Yeah.
want to ask?
Right.
Yeah, yeah, that kind of planning.
Yeah, I think we may need to do some fine tuning of exactly what this committee is charged with doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I think it's not quite defined yet. And I think, Scott, that's probably part of where your nervousness is coming from, that
I think he's
it
right
sounds
to
a
be
bit,
a little
Yeah.
it
nervous.
sounds a bit
Yeah.
undefined
Can we
and loose, and so.
Talk about it and bring it back to the next meeting, maybe?
That might be
Yeah.
a good way to do it, to have come up with a description and
Yep.
sort of a,
Well, I'm all for getting going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to be like, throw cold water on it and not even get help. So,
no, those are, but you raise lots of good issues
Um,
be
with
aware.
who is involved.
I don't
whose
want to wait
voices.
till the next meeting.
Am I allowed to email the board, the full board, with whatever we come up with? Is that legal? You can't receive.
Yes, we just
Yeah.
can't have
Just
an
can't
email
reply all.
discussion,
Right.
but people
Or
could
make
reply
decisions.
just
To
to
me.
you
Yeah.
and express concerns, and then we could
So we could do it,
fine-tune at
yeah,
our
so we
meeting.
don't have to wait for the next meeting. I can
Yeah,
just
I
put
think-
out,
I
this is
think
kind
that's
of.
a good solution.
What?
I think we need to, because budget season is
Coming.
like a freight train staring at us.
So what's our goal?
So-
Is to decide about a little bit of.
Well, to
budget
decide when we'll
and-
have this community forum and what the scope of the community forum will be.
Okay.
And then at the community forum, we'll develop these
Ideas. And
ideas and
Yep.
priorities, frankly. I mean, that's what
Yep.
budgeting
Yeah.
is, figuring out what your priorities are and where you're gonna put your money.
And it's gonna come.
I don't think it's a hugely complicated process. I think
No.
we're just
And
gonna.
Let me complicate.
Like on this, on the agenda, it's vision for the drama musical program.
That too.
But if we could keep the scope bigger than that,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that that's important, and I think that that's easily going to rise to the surface as one of the big topics. But yeah, I think keeping the whole child aspect in
Maybe
there.
just a more broad.
Yeah, and so that the community
Mhm.
knows that we want to put some money into food for
Yeah.
kindergarten, and, you know, that there are other
Okay.
enrichment / whole child education opportunities that the school
Okay.
is looking
You're not just standing on the shoulder of drama.
at. Right, we're not, yeah.
So maybe the three of us can meet and come up with some sort of our purpose, and then craft a message to the greater community, inviting them to come be part of the discussion, right, or part of the committee,
Right.
to help lead this discussion, and then choose a date for the forum.
That makes
Does that
sense.
make sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yep. Okay.
So that's Colleen, Sarah, and you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And anybody else that is
Is
involved,
there
interested.
What's the status of the parent organization?
It's not. It's
We don't
We don't have one.
We don't have.
I
We
didn't
don't have
know
one.
that for sure. I know that
Yeah.
it's been other meetings and.
That might be part of what we discuss as a community,
Yeah, so,
right?
I mean, I don't think this isn't like anything that nobody recognizes, but this perhaps is another example of a moment where the school district needs a parent organization, parent community organization, as to be really a more fluid liaison with the community, and one that's not burdened by open meeting law, where a school board member or two could be in attendance and then come back to these meetings and what happened there.
I would probably warn community forum so that we can show up.
Perhaps, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
but
That makes sense.
I'm just kind of commenting, that's all I need to be.
Yeah, that would be ideal, right?
Like we
Yeah.
had
That would be the connection between the board, the community,
Yeah.
the school.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if we're being engaged in any efforts to encourage that, or is that really
I mean,
not
we
what do?
tried.
Is that
We
not
did.
what
We
do?
did try last year when the president was leaving or could no longer.
Yeah, I remember that.
I mean, we did try to replace her, but it didn't happen.
And it's a tough thing to, you don't want someone to do it because, to be forced into it, because you really need to be pretty gung-ho, and I wonder too if like a total reboot of that organization isn't what we need, that we change the name. PTSF sounds too much like PTA. People think of it as a sort of archaic thing. Or is it the Parent Advisory Council, and they feel like they have much more of an active role in shaping what goes on at the school. And
You can also shift to home instead of using the word parent, because then that gets loaded,
Yes,
like what
good
we were
point.
just
Right.
talking
Like
about.
very
just
good
now.
point. Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of places are changing the names of their
very true.
organizations.
Well,
That's right.
do you remember what
Like Home
Albert
and
Bridges
School
is?
Support team, or
Yep.
Home and School Association.
Albert Bridge has one that school community. It's SCIP, I think, School Community Integration Partnership or something like that, which is kind of a neat way to put it. And they're really, from what I gather from it, my son's only in kindergarten there, so I'm still learning. But from what I gather, it's a lot more community based versus just parents of students. Which
Add that to
is
the
kind of
list
neat.
before I'm
Great.
done.
Yeah.
No,
Really.
and to say we're looking for literacy
Right.
lunch volunteers. We're looking for WINS volunteers. We need, all those people who showed up at that breakfast. Like, we need
Right.
you. This is
Yeah.
something you can do.
Yeah.
That might be a good place to say that.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
We're 3 minutes behind schedule.
I'll email
All right.
you. I'll email Sarah and Colleen with some dates. If
Excellent.
that works, or when you're available. Okay.
Great.
Well, we've got plenty. I didn't have a short report tonight. Am I home?
You are.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I knew we had other things to talk about, so. All right. So, I got this report this morning. You're in the library, which is almost done. It's not quite finished. We're waiting for some parts, some hardware to finish some shelves and some get some wheels on the bookshelves in the middle there. They were supposed to be able to move, and they can't right now. But
The metal ones or
the
The metal ones
yeah,
right here in the
yeah.
middle that divide it.
The beauty of it is we can move stuff wherever we want. So this room did not look like this at 2:30 this afternoon. Very different. The kids are loving it. The staff is also loving it. Kathleen has been pretty amazing for what we've asked her to do in a short amount of time while teaching. So
Yeah, seriously.
she's been a really good sport. I know that it's been a little bit overwhelming, but I think she's starting to settle. She's the Makerspace program that she's using. She's modeling after the audit teaching program. They've shared all their resources, and they went through this last year trial and figuring it out. So they've been kind of to share everything, and I think that helps a lot for her. But got much staffing in here. Yeah, pretty well. So on that topic of awareness and acceptance, we're trying as much as we can, whenever opportunities present themselves, to bring in resources to share information and to educate our kids around this topic. So we had Beth, she came in and did a presentation about alopecia, which her daughter has, and she's very open about it in school, and taught the kids about it, what it looks like, how you can treat it. It's not contagious. I mean, that was a big deal. Kids thought it was contagious. So we're really happy that she came in. We're looking for more of those opportunities. Most of you went to the Best Day Ever presentation, which was incredible. I don't know, gave me chills. I don't know about you guys, but it's a pretty amazing program, which I told you about, but I wanted to just highlight that they made that happen. I think you helped me as well. So Brittany and I are really trying to focus on positive and build appreciation for all that the teachers do and the kids. And so you know that our theme for the year is team. And so we, as an admin team, select a staff member and a student that are really demonstrating elements of team, trust and engagement, acceptance. And so we have our first staff member was Donna Hatch. She's our new special educator. She is just a great fit for Hartland. She really is. That's awesome. Yeah. Glad you're here to see it. So she won the award this week. She stepped up to do all kinds of things, and she really connects well with kids. So she's super organized, and
She loves middle schoolers.
yeah.
That's all I needed to hear.
That's awesome.
She just loves them.
So we taught her and presented her with. She gets the premier parking spot in the lot, the closest one to the building for this month. And then we had our student Leander earn the student team award, and he was presented with that at the last assembly. And we recognized the students of the month as well, which the teachers nominate. So we're continuing with our You Got Mugged practice and our shout outs at staff meetings, and they're just the little things that help staff feel appreciated, and they go a long way. I have to say, after the principal coffee Friday, I kind of plan them around when we do our wild card drawings and our coffee card drawings, the student that is selected gets to choose from a board full of
Like incentives and
one
stuff,
a
yeah.
teacher or a hike or 15 minutes of free time or whatever. They get to select a prize, and the staff that wrote the card gets a little reward, and one of them is coffee muffin delivery. So I went Friday with the coffee card to the staff members that earned it, and I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah.
They were absolutely thrilled, and it was just coffee and a muffin. It just made them feel, it made them feel special. So we'll continue with that. We're also trying to do that. I think I told you this last month. Part of our monthly staff meetings, we're giving the staff 15 minutes or so for positive feedback for parents. So Linda over the summer created a document with all the students by grade, their parent email addresses, phone numbers, and she printed labels for cards. And they were keeping track, and our goal is to make sure every family gets a positive, some positive feedback over the course of the year, a postcard or an email or a phone call. So several parents have received them and actually said something about how much they appreciate it getting. So we think it'll help build those relationships with families. So we can deliver the bad news sometimes as well.
That's the only reason we're doing it.
You gotta be, you gotta build those relationships.
There's
Build
that.
relationship.
5 positives for 1 negative.
Right. I think it's more than 5, isn't it?
I'm going with 6 to 8 positives for 1 negative. We're really pushing them.
Depending on how negative.
As you heard, Lauren and Amanda came and presented to the staff, and that's one thing we've added to our meetings this year. We want to empower our teachers and build their skills as teacher leaders. So we have a shared document. They can sign up to come and share something they're passionate about, or share a problem they want to talk about, whatever it is. They have that opportunity. So they were the first presenters, and they did a decent job. So that will continue. Whoops, I'm backwards. And then I'm really, really thrilled that we have our 3rd through 5th grade Wildcat Council in place. They meet Wednesdays, their first meeting. The counselor that you saw tonight, Sue McDermott, she's facilitating the Wildcat Council, and did a great job. The kids wrote speeches and delivered them, and peers voted, and these are the kids that are on the Wildcat Council. So we're hoping they feel empowered and they'll have an avenue to bring change to the school. And I think, Angie, you're going to talk about this are you going to talk about this program in the SU meeting?
No, I'm just talking about curriculum updates.
Okay, so Angie, as you know, we have 2 SU coaches now, Beth Ziegler and Regina Davis. And so Angie has been working with them to create what coaching really looks like and what we want that program to be. It is voluntary at this point. Teachers can ask for one of the coaches to come and work with them. The goal, focus on best practices, connect with each other, develop relationships, and have shared responsibility for learning, and provide professional learning. So they're just getting rolling. They're coming to the staff meeting this month to present to staff. And I think one of the key factors is this is not evaluative in any way. This is just to build their skills. So I want them to know that and take advantage of it. So anything to add, Angie?
So we have found that the 2 schools that have had coaches, of course, the staff are more open to the to the coaching process. But where we did go to the buildings and really stress the fact that it was teacher's choice, what would be the goals of the coaching cycle, and that it was non-evaluative, that seems to have sparked some interest. I mean, the challenge with an instructional coaching model that's SU-wide is building the program. So once people have gone out on the people don't want to do anything that's might smack of having to take more time. What they don't realize is that time you get paid back in tenfold if it's improving your practice, right? So once we get over that, I mean, I really think that this year is a development year, and we're taking our time developing it slowly and thoughtfully, and hopefully building that growth mindset that everybody can benefit from coaching. So our instructional coaches do have a specialization. Beth specializes in math, and Regina specializes in literacy, but we are offering that to any teacher that would like to have some feedback on their practice. That can be a scary thing when you're used to shutting your door.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a good thing.
So I'll keep you updated on that.
You skipped a slide. Did you mean to do that? Yeah.
Oh, this is other things, just kind of quick updates. Well, it's the Arcs for Success training took place last week, and that is the universal screener I shared a little bit about before the last meeting. So they've been trained, now we're gonna figure out how we're gonna implement it, who's gonna manage that information, and, you know, we're thinking starting small so that we can have success, and using it as part of our targeted process, just to get more information about the kids that, need our help. 5 staff members from HES, and I think 24, 25 from the SU are enrolled in this Trauma Transformed graduate course, through, taught by Dave Melnick through Castleton University, and he is
in the very.
So we had our first class last week. It's been this week. But I was doing some of the reading over the weekend, and it's fascinating. It's about the brain and development. So these are going to be, the people in the cohort are going to be the champions, and they're going to share information with the whole staff. Admin team's also engaged in leading proficiency series, which we went to last week, which was a great training, and we have 3 more sessions, which is all about implementing proficiencies in education, and how that looks, and how that translates into a report card, and all the questions and issues that come up around that. But it was a great first.
Christine,
Yeah.
are some, would you know, I don't know if you're aware of the SU, are some or all of those teachers and 25 teachers in the SU? Yeah, they've known that course. Are they, is that course being used as integral to graduate studies, like graduate degree? Or is it depends. For some, yes. For some, no. I'm just curious.
Yeah. We really tried to offer it to anybody that wanted it, but we also knew that we needed to bring on some resistors, right? So you want to bring in people that maybe
don't know about it.
Don't know about it,
Yeah.
and could benefit from that. So,
Ultimately, the idea is to have a group of people, supervisory union-wide, that can provide feedback to each school about how they're doing in terms of their trauma sensitivity, programming, counseling, whatever it is that creates a trauma-transformed school environment. These are the folks who will have the expertise to go and consult throughout the supervisory union and help everybody head that way.
We know that's good for all of us.
Yeah.
Those practices are good for all of us. Yeah. I just wanted to, because I'm really super proud of us. Brittany and I almost reached our goal and walk about top grades. I was like, I sent her an email Thursday night. I'm like, tomorrow's our last day.
We missed it by 3 in the end because they were absent. I feel like that doesn't count.
Whatever you need to tell yourself, right?
We're gonna get it next month. We're gonna get it next month.
And we're using Teach Point and the walk through checklist, and the MTSSA team will look that data and see where the trends are. Fit time is underway. I visited 3rd grade today during fit time. It's working really well in 3rd grade, and we've had some other teachers request time to go watch in 3rd grade to see how they're implementing it. So we're happy about that. I mentioned the first physical coffee happened Friday. We had 2 parents, so I'm really
There you
happy
go.
that 0.
No place but up.
And it'll grow. There was another parent that came later, so I put Sandra, but he's going to come next month. And I shared that the HCC breakfast and brief meeting is coming up, so I'll report on that next time. And Brittany compiled a little bit of behavioral data for you.
Yeah, so the top graph there is September 30th through the 25th of last year compared to the bottom graph on the right, which was those same dates this year. So if you look where I put the stars, you can see last year we had 197 referrals by 55 teachers, or by 55 students total, 39 staff. And at the bottom, we were at 129 with 57 students and 33 staff. Couple of differences. I put that extra graph on the other side, on the right, because last year, 6-8 was not writing up students or collecting any data for being unprepared or being late for class. So I wanted to be sure that you could see a direct comparison from the top graph to the this year's. The other difference this year, which I was not able to, figure out how to show you what that difference resulted in, because I'm not sure yet, but we went to a completely online referral system for all professional staff. So teachers, interventionists, Christine, myself, we all use the Swiss system, and they can go online, they fill out the form right in there, and it sends me an email right away whenever that happens. So I was hoping that it would be, I get a ding and I'm going to go address that immediately, and that's not totally how it happens every time. But at least I know about it quicker, and versus, getting a stack of papers every day that I have to kind of filter through. I can go through those much more easily and get those to the SEIs a lot quicker, which is nice. Plus, it's saving our SEIs an unbelievable amount of time not having to input all that data every day. So hopefully that'll continue to go well. We haven't gotten the paraprofessionals on board with that yet because it goes directly to me and not to the classroom teacher. I want to be sure there's a communication with the classroom teacher about what's happening with the students. So I mean, it's looking really good so far. I think the feel in the staff overall. I've heard a lot of comments from staff just that they feel a difference between beginning of last year and this year, which is fabulous. Yeah, we were just saying compared to last year, we have had no restraints, which is huge. I know that doesn't sound, I mean, there shouldn't be any, but I mean, like compared to the beginning of last year, there was a significant amount at this time, and just students who were really struggling. They did not have the interventions that they needed at the time, and so that's huge. That's great. Hopefully they're getting more of what they need now, and they're having their needs met. So really happy about that.
Yeah, we're really happy about that. And I forgot to mention, Sean Carey and We Are Hope is in place and meeting with kids, and I think that's helping a small number of children, which is more, but having that every day process and cycle, just build a relationship with someone you can trust.
Yep.
So keep it updated. So I have a couple of requests, and I think that's the last slide. These are related to drama, and there was a question about whether or not, and I didn't know the answer, and I didn't have time to look it up. I know that I bring you fundraisers for your approval, so you kind of have a sense of what we're doing. Is that Jamie was? Is that all fundraisers, or the ones that we always do? Do you want those brought to you every year, or not? Because that was her question. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember actually. So I brought them all this time, but you can think about it. It doesn't have to be an answer tonight.
It's easy.
But it is good.
It's nice to know. It's nice to know, and I do. I mean, we should know all of the ones that are going on. If there are other people that are fundraising that we don't know about, we should probably, we should know all of them. So
that's what I assume.
Yeah.
Okay.
It gives us a picture of.
So the drama club would like to do an apparel fundraiser. They'll sell shirts that have the Wildcat logo, soon to be personalized dramatic Wildcat, along with quotes, themes from whatever production we're doing that year. They're going to sell them in the fall and the spring. And they make $2 for each episode. Those funds go to fund the show itself, to maintain equipment, and for their trip to New York City. So that's one fundraiser. I don't know if you want to group them one at a time. You want to go down the list? They are proposing to do a haunted walk at Pumpkins in the Park, which will they will charge $1 for. They're going to work in conjunction with John at the rec. Parents are going to donate the decorations, and the kids are going to use their theater skills to really scare people. And they'll charge it all. It'll be fun, and it'll be right in town. Really busy.
It'll be at the wellness center.
Yeah, at the wellness center. Yes. And then they want to throw a Halloween party on 27th. I originally thought
she said Damon Hall, but in this email it says June, so I'm not sure.
That was dependent on that policy thing, and I thought she had said that those parents wanted to be able to open it up as a whole community. I thought that's the last thing I had heard was that it was going to be a David.
So we made in our handbook, our student handbook, the decision for the 8th grade dance to keep it just our kids and not have kids from other schools coming. Things have turned into, we had some issues. So we made that decision and put that in our handbook, and the kids want to open this up.
They want it to be a family event, so parents would come, everybody would come, and so.
So we said, well, if you have the David Hall, it's around that. On the 27th, they will have games run by the drama kids, concessions run by the parents. They'll charge $5. Folks of all ages are welcome. And then, so those are the drama ones, and the student council, I mean, as Jamie and I were talking, she said, well, they should probably approve the school score as well, because that's a fundraiser that they always do. That's the student council, they sell pencils and some snacks and good things, erasers, and the kids decide how to use those profits, so I can't tell you how to use them at this point, but so those are the fundraiser requests.
So do we have a motion to approve the group of fundraiser requests?
I'm not familiar enough with the policy to assume.
I don't even, actually, I think we could just do it on a, does everybody agree? So do we all agree that we should let people raise money for these covers? You do? So I think that that's a majority vote.
Sure.
I don't think we need to do it for them.
I can't remember if it was policy or procedure, but I just remember we talked about it.
Yeah,
last
yeah,
year.
no, we're supposed to, yeah, I think we're supposed to.
And that concludes my report. Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And look at what time it is!
Well done.
We did that.
Woohoo!
All right, so do we need to?
Oh, yeah, we need to adjourn. Oh, we
Adjourn,
need to
set
set
the
the
next
next
agenda.
agenda. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, so we'll get an update from the community forum group.
What did you say, Nikki? I didn't hear you.
We're gonna get an update from the community.
For the
forum
next
group.
agenda.
So
Yep,
we'll-
okay.
We'll meet
Yep.
before that meeting.
Yes, we will. I'll send you an email tomorrow.
We may discuss the phone system again. Did we do, this is a bad time to ask that, did we do our second reading on?
Yes,
Okay, so that we approved.
I believe you did, yeah.
Okay. But we don't have any more policies that you guys.
We were waiting for the marijuana. Yep. We were waiting for some information to come down
It is
on that
gonna
one.
be tonight.
Yep. So maybe we need to make our budget schedule next month, do you think?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so I have the community forum, phone systems, and the budget schedule. And I think we can take motions to adjourn.
Move we adjourn?
Okay.
Who made it?
Sarah.
Sarah.
Okay, so we're gonna adjourn at 7:01.
Do you need me to help with anything?
Daryl will clean up.